Hey everybody, it's Matt. Welcome back to the Journey Church podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you can automatically get our weekly episodes. And you might want to go ahead and subscribe to our Journey YouTube channel as well. You'll find messages, music, interviews, inspiring stories, and more for you all right there. Now, I hope this episode helps you take your next step in following Jesus. All right, I want to start today with a question. I need to preface it by saying I need you to be really honest. This is not a trap. You are not going to, be pointed out for this. You are not going to be made the villain, all right? So I just need you to be honest. I want to know how many of you would say you are highly competitive people. Let me see your hands. Yeah, shocking. Almost everybody. It's funny how that works in our church. Yeah, me too. Okay, next question. This is a little harder to be honest about. How many of you have ever gotten into an argument with someone over a board game or a card game? Oh, look at all of us. Yeah, we're wonderful people to play games with. That's awesome. Any of you ever gotten confused and thought spoons was a contact sport? You want to admit that? Oh, yeah. Lou's all in on that. Absolutely. I wouldn't mess with Lou when I was playing spoons. So she'll win every time. Yeah, that's true. And here's the thing. There are a few of you who are not competitive people. I think you're all competitive in some way. But for those of you who don't have a high competitive spirit, you think we're crazy and we need to go into counseling when you see us in these settings. And I'm just telling you, you're wrong. I will argue till the day I die that a competitive spirit is a God-given gift. It really is. It's amazing. Except when it shows up in one specific area. Okay, there is one area that when you let your competitive spirit get past the boundaries and past the guardrails and kind of run wild, it's pretty harmful, it's pretty toxic. So we're going to talk about it for the next 4 weeks. The series is called Gaming Relationships. We're going to talk about the games we play that tend to undermine all the relationships that we say are important to us. Because we tend to bring our competitive spirit to relationships, but it's not a competitive spirit that is directed in the right way. So over the next 4 weeks, this isn't like just a marriage series or family series. We're talking about any relationship you have. Doesn't matter where it is or what it looks like. There are some games that we can play that can hurt them, but there are also some games you can play in those relationships that will help them. And so what I'm going to try to do is invite you and encourage you to take your competitive spirit and play the right game in relationships to make them better. Now, here's the foundation, the fundamental idea behind this entire series. It's simply this, that relationally speaking, a game that requires a loser is a game nobody wins. Now, just to be clear, this is not true in any other area of life. When I'm playing basketball, I want you to lose because I'm winning, okay? It's not true in any other area. But when it comes to relationships, a game that requires a loser is a game that nobody actually wins. I'm going to illustrate this for you, and I think the best way to illustrate it is to think about relationships at home, okay, or family relationships. Because when you think about those relationships, some of you, I know what you're thinking. You're like, no, Matt, you are wrong. I have played some games in those relationships. I've had some arguments. We have had some fights, and I won. It was very clear I won. Like, I got what I wanted, and they backed down or they did this. So I don't think this is entirely true. There was a winner in that, and it was me. And I totally understand that. I would just simply ask you if we were having coffee or whatever. My follow-up question would be, what exactly did you win? In that argument, what trophy did you walk away with? Did you get to make victory laps around the kitchen island? Would it feel that good? I mean, did they hug you and high-five you and say, can we do best 2 out of 3 there? They were not happy. And quite honestly, even though you got your way, you probably weren't totally thrilled because you argued your way into getting your way, but you lost something along the way. Think about it. Didn't that happen? You argued your way. We can all think of examples into getting your way. I finally got what I wanted. It felt like a win. But then you realize you lost something along the way because you ended up sleeping on the couch. Maybe that's an extreme example. Or to use some family examples again, you powered up and you got your son to do what you want him to do, but now he doesn't open up and talk to you about stuff. You lost something along the way. Or you had the perfect comeback that just shut down your daughter and got her to stop, talking and going on. And she just did what you wanted. but she did it with tears running down her cheeks. And now she's not as open with you anymore. You argued your way into getting your way. But in any relationship, when you do this, you always lose something along the way. And here's why. If I ask you the question, what's the win in any relationship? Do you know what the answer is? It's the relationship. It's not you getting the outcome that you wanted. It's a relationship. Because the only way relationships can be healthy is if the relationship is comprised of winners and winners. Whenever you and I pursue win-lose outcomes in relationships, everybody loses. You cannot have a healthy relationship built on win-lose scenarios and win-lose outcomes. If there's any loser in a relationship, the relationship is not what you want it to be. It simply can't be. You have to have win-win scenarios. But it is much easier for all of us, and it's way more natural for us to play games in relationships that have win-lose outcomes. And so I want to give you some context for this just so it makes sense. I'm going to give you some examples of some of these games. I'm actually going to go through 8 of these games. We are guilty of all of them. All of us have played some of these at some different point. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but I am going to give you a warning in advance that as I start talking about these, and I hit a particular one that, well, maybe you're familiar with. No elbowing, texting, or pointing, okay? Because that's a win-lose scenario. You will pay for that later. So you just keep a straight face and act like nobody's ever done this to you and you've never done it to anybody, all right? Let's go through some of these. Here's what I mean. Have you ever played the change game? The change game is when you're in a relationship with somebody, a friendship, it doesn't matter, and you want to fix him, you want to fix her, but you really don't want them to know that you're going to fix them, but you are certain once you fix them, they will be so much better as a person. Does that sound familiar? Or how about the guessing game? The guessing game. The guessing game goes like this. Hey, it seems like something's wrong with you. What's wrong? Nothing. A little while later, I think something's wrong with you. Nope, nothing. A little while later, come on, tell me, what's wrong? Nothing. And by the third round of what's wrong, nothing, if you haven't guessed what's wrong, you're in big trouble. Some of you have had this happen to you, right? It's like, no, I'm actually mad now because clearly you don't love me enough and don't know me well enough. You haven't been paying attention. You should be able to guess what's wrong with me. I shouldn't have to tell you. Now you're in deeper water. We've experienced that before. What about this one? The guilt game. The guilt game. We're probably all guilty of this. Trying to manipulate somebody to do what we want them to do with a little bit of guilt. It's like, well, I guess I'll just go by myself again. Or I'll take care, don't worry, I'll take care of that. I know it's your job, but I'll take care of that one more time. We've all played that game. How about this one? The blame game. The blame game. This usually comes up when you respond to someone in a way that is inappropriate or out of bounds, and it's pointed out to you, to which you then say, well, I would have never responded the way I did if you hadn't have done, and you just blame somebody. There's also a passive-aggressive form of this game I need to mention because some of you are pros at this version. It's where it's pointed out to you, you responded inappropriately, and you look back and you say, I am so sorry that I responded that way to you because you left all the dishes in the sink again. And you just tag on again what they did wrong, right? And it's like, that's not actually an apology, but you claim it is. That's the blame game, okay? It's real slick. It's very passive-aggressive, but it's still the same outcome. How about this one? The comparison game. The comparison game. You know how lucky you are to have me? I wish you could be married to some other women for a little while, and then you'd see. Or I wish you had a friend more like him, and then you'd appreciate me. That's the old comparison game. Or the shame game. Now, shame game, we play this in a lot of different ways. I'm gonna give a real simple example that hits home for those of us who are married, particularly those of us who are men, who maybe are gifted at a million things, but doing little jobs around the house is not one of them. You know what I'm talking about? And they look at you and they say, I've been asking for 5 months for that to get done. You know, if my dad was here, he'd have fixed it in 5 minutes with duct tape and spit. Yes, that's called the shame game. Clearly, nobody's ever done that. All right, next one. Family of origin game. This happens in families This also happens in family businesses. If you work in a family business, you have seen this, where somebody says, you know what, you're reminding me a whole lot of your dad right now. And that is not a compliment, you know? Or, you sounded just like your mom just then. That's a win-lose outcome every single time, isn't it? One more. How about the motive assignment game? This is one of my favorites. So, and some of you are guilty of this, and you don't want to let us know you're guilty of it, but you are. The motive assignment game is when somebody's wanting you to do something, a friend, a teammate, somebody in the family, whatever. They've been wanting you to do something, and you're like, I want to be supportive. I want to be loving. I want them to know I care. And so you jump in and you do it. To which they look back at you and you expect them to say, thank you so much. That meant so much to me. And instead they say, I know you only did that because you were trying to prove a point. And you're like, well, yeah, I was trying to tell you I cared. No, you didn't do it. You just did it because you felt like you had to. You ever dealt with somebody like that? It's like a no-win situation, isn't it? You're like, I just tried my best, but they apparently can read my mind and see my heart, you know? So it's always assuming the worst motive for somebody. Every one of these create win-lose outcomes. And if we were talking in a vacuum, like it wasn't related to your situation, it wasn't related to any emotion around your situation, and I was describing these games, you'd be like, oh yeah, that'll wreck a relationship. Oop, that won't be helpful. You know, we would all see it, but we're all guilty of playing it. So, I don't want you to be less competitive in your relationships. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to steer or direct your competition, your competitive spirit. I want you to steer it into a different kind of game. So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to talk about 4 different games you can play in relationships that actually lead to win-win outcomes instead of win-lose outcomes. That'll actually help you get the kind of relationship you want in all of those situations you and I deal with, and we think about, and we navigate week after week. And I'm going to warn you that the one we're going to talk about today, the first one, is we're talking about because it's foundational and it's fundamental to all the other games, but it's also the worst one, all right? I'm just telling you up front. So it's going to get better after this. That's the point. Come back next week. It won't be quite as hard to deal with, but this one's really hard to deal with. It's what I call the honor game. Now, the reason I say the honor game is so hard is because to win the honor game, you have to lose. Yeah, let me say that again, because that doesn't sound fun, does it? To win the honor game, you have to lose. But here's the other part of this game. If everybody playing the game chooses to lose, everybody wins. So it makes for an interesting dynamic. I want to explain it to you this way. This is a game, when we talk about this in a minute, this is a game that's going to be somewhat familiar to you because you have seen it modeled. You have seen people live this out at different moments, and you've thought, that's amazing. But what you can't understand, and neither can I, is that Jesus introduced this game into a world where no one played this way. No one approached relationships this way. And because of it, when Jesus showed up and started talking about it, it didn't make sense to anybody. Like, oh, you want me to lose like that? And you're telling me if I lose like that, I'm going to win? Who is going to buy that? And we know it was hard to understand because when the Apostle Paul came along later, and he's writing letters to all these different groups of Christians in different places around that known world, around the Mediterranean rim, he talks about this and highlights this over and over and over again because they're all scratching their heads like, you want me to do what? You want us to treat one another like how? It was such a new foreign concept to all of them, but it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So here's how Paul explained it to a group of Christians that were in the city of Rome. He simply put it this way. He said, I want you to be devoted to one another in love, and I want you to, here it is, honor one another above yourselves. Honor one another above yourselves, which causes you to go, wait a minute. Not equal to myself? No, above yourself. I want you to serve them above yourself. I want you to elevate them above yourself. I want you to honor them above yourself. To which for all of us competitive people, we're like, well, I don't even want to play this game because I don't think anybody else is playing it. So it's too easy to win. Like, who else is going to be doing this? Nobody's going to do it back to me. This is what they were thinking. In another letter that Paul wrote to Christians in the city of Philippi, he gave a little more color to this. He gave a little more description to it. Here's how he put it with them. He said, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Can we just delete that game rule out of the game entirely? I mean, if this is all that we had talked about today, this causes us all to go, I don't know that I want to do that. I'm not even sure I can do that. Nothing. I mean, I got a lot of selfish ambition. Nothing out of selfish ambition. I don't even know how to do that. He goes on. He says this, rather in humility, value others above, there it is again, above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of the others. I'm supposed to think about what you want and need more than what I want and need. That is so unnatural and foreign. He says, yeah, he goes on to write, in your relationships, not some of them, all of them, not the ones that are easy or simple to do, and the ones you and I are thinking about right now where we're like, there is no way I'm going to put them before me because they're just, in all of them, he says, have the same mindset or attitude as Christ Jesus. Now, let me just pause right here before I go any further. I don't have a lot of time to talk about this, but here's what I know. You already know how to do this. You know how to put the interests of somebody else before yourself. You know how to honor somebody before yourself. And the reason I know that is because there has been a point in your life where you have been around someone that to you felt like they are more important or they are more famous than I am. And what did you do in that moment? You put their interests before yours. You were thinking about what they needed or wanted, not what you needed and wanted. You honored them. And you had no trouble doing it. It made perfect sense. So this isn't a deal where I need to get up here and explain to you how to play this game. You just need to decide to play it with everybody, not just selectively with some people. You need to decide, no, I'm gonna play this game with the people it's easy to play it with, but I'm also gonna play this game with the people it's incredibly difficult to play it with. To which you would go, well, why would I ever do that? Why would I ever do that? Well, here's why you would do that. He says, you should have the same mindset and attitude of your King, Jesus. And you know what he did? Here's what he did. Paul goes on to write, who being in very nature God, didn't consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. He was God in human flesh. He had all the power in the world. He could have leveraged everything for his own advantage and deserved to. We have all this selfish ambition. When you get a little bit of an opportunity, what do? Your natural instinct's mine. How can I leverage this for my own advantage? Jesus showed up and said, I've got it all, and I'm not going to leverage any of it for my own advantage. Rather, Paul says, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. Imagine having all the power in the universe and saying, nope, I think the way I'm going to use that is I'm going to serve those people. He didn't come to be served. He came to serve and to ultimately sacrifice and give his life away on our behalf. Can you imagine how you would react if you saw a king, a current king, you pick whichever one you want, King Charles in England. If you saw a current king who did this, who decided to serve, who decided to, not like for a photo op, I mean like every day, I'm going to embrace the duties of a servant. I'm going to do exactly what a servant would do for these people. We'd be blown away by that. Well, take that, multiply it by 1,000,000, and you get God in human flesh who's going, oh, I've got it all, and everything should be about me, but I'm not going to make any of it about me. I'm going to put their interests before mine. That's what Jesus did. And if you're not a Jesus follower, you need to know, if you decide to become a Jesus follower, that's what you're invited into. That is the standard. Those of us who are Jesus followers, listen, honor should be one of the distinctive characteristics of every one of our lives. This should be seen in every Christian marriage, every Christian friendship, every Christian community, every church. When people think about our church, this all be one of the things they think about. There's a group of people who always seem to put the interest of others before their own. Because that's what our King did. So my question for you is this. Will you play the honor game in every, that's the key word, in every relationship in your life? I know you can play it in some of them. But will you take that competitive spirit you have and will you say, no, I'm not going to settle for being average and just doing it when it's easy. I'm going to figure out how to put the interests and needs of that person I don't like, of that person who's difficult, of that person who I think is going to take advantage of me when I do this. I'm going to put their needs and interests in front of my own anyway. I'm going to do it at work. I'm going to do it at home. I'm going to do it in the classroom. I'm going to do it with my teammates. I'm going to do it on social media. I'm going to do it in my community. Will you do that? Why? Because what excuse do us Jesus followers have not to? When our King did it and set the example and said, "Now I just want you to do what I have done for you." Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm no different. Like, we begin to think of some relationships where we're like, I'm just not interested in doing that with them. But let me remind you, the gap between you and that person that just feels too big to cross is nothing compared to the gap between Jesus and us. And he crossed that gap to serve us. So I think we can cross the gap to serve the difficult people we don't want to serve, to honor people who maybe don't even deserve it. Doesn't matter. We didn't deserve it either. Jesus still honored us. And it just might be the breakthrough that some of your relationships have been looking for. Because the win in any relationship is not getting the outcome you want. You cannot play a game with a win-lose outcome and expect to have a better relationship. The win is the relationship. So you have to choose to play a game where you lose so they can win. And the beauty of this honor game is, if they will do the same, if we will all do the same, well, when we all choose to honor somebody before ourselves and lose, everybody ends up winning. And what an improvement to our families and our workplaces and our community and our schools and our teams that would make. Let me pray for us. Father, it's really hard to do. A lot easier to talk about because we think of people right now that we're like, I don't know that I want to do that. I think they'll take advantage of me. I think that'll cost me. And that is possible. But we have to trust you enough because you modeled it for us. That when we lose, we always win if we're trusting you. So help us this week. We're going to get an opportunity. We might get an opportunity in the next hour. Help us to choose honor over these win-lose games. And when we get it wrong, thanks for your grace, which is big enough to cover it. Help us to get right back up to try again. Most of all, we're grateful that you've given us your Spirit to give us the power and strength to do this because we can't do it on our own. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Hey, if you'd like more content like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our Journey app to access all of our recent message content. And our app is the easiest way to share this content with friends. For more information on our church or to find our app or our YouTube channel, just visit JourneyCalway.com. That's JourneyCalway.com. Thanks for listening.